Ray, thank you so much for coming on to the Stephen Skinner podcast here. You're our second person today, but first day doing these wonderful guest interviews and things. So thank you so much for coming on today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So again, you have wonderful Shauna, your wife, and then you have your dog Duke. And I know Duke because he's the most beautiful. What type of even dog is Duke?
It's anybody's guess. Duke is a rescue from Helping Hounds, so we are going with Labrador Husky.
Okay.
With 2 different colored eyes, and he's the most beautiful. The hierarchy in the house is the most beautiful person would be my wife or my child, then Duke,
yes.
And then I'm just kind of trailing behind that. So.
Well, and that's and you have about 3.5 years old.
Yes.
Oh, it's wonderful. What a beautiful family. We're all going to talk about Eastwood today. We're going to talk about what you do with United Way, but I'm thinking about the fact that some of the most recognizable things that I can think of on a Sunday morning is you and your wife. Sometimes I think there might be Bo with them on a stroller, but definitely Duke is like the centerpiece, probably is the one that gets all the attention. And usually there's a cup of beautiful locally roasted coffee in your hands.
That's pretty much us. If we're, that's one of the beauties of Eastwood is, being able to walk around the neighborhood
yes.
and stop
yes.
in and know the people at Cracked Bean. And,
yes.
it's I'd say every weekend that's what we look forward to,
This was the dream. And again, I appreciate and thank you that you embody what a walkable community should be like, which is not afraid to leave your home, getting to know your neighbors. Again, you live in a great area of Eastwood, but again, it's all about the walkability and this community feel that we have. So again, I'll ask you a couple more questions on that as we get in, but tell me, one of the goals of the podcast is to learn a little bit more, not just about small businesses and what I do, but also the amazing people that live here locally. So you work for the United Way. Again, I'm just gonna be honest. When it comes to the United Way, I know it's an amazing organization. I believe, again, nonprofit. I see a lot of times when I'll watch NFL football, I'll see United Way. But I think a lot of people, and maybe even some of our listeners, would not even know if they could depict what does the United Way do. And just even reading up on it, I saw about different local chapters. So tell me a little about United Way, and also tell me about what does Ray do with the United Way?
All right, so Ray is Chief Marketing Officer for United Way of Central New York.
Okay.
United Way is a national brand. It's a worldwide brand that people recognize through things like the NFL
yes.
and through partnerships and sponsorships.
Yes.
But United Way of Central New York is like most of the United Ways around the country, which is it started as a local effort.
See.
It was, we're celebrating 100 years this year based on we were the Syracuse Community Chest when it started.
Oh man.
So when you play Monopoly and you see the community chest on the board, most people just think of it as, I'm not sure what that is, but it's something that's there. The community chest was a concept of if we all give together, we could support all of these needs in the community. So at the time where there may have been a little bit less organization in terms of, they'd say help the homeless, help the needy, help the... So it was that idea of we can all pool our money together and we can help all these causes at the same time. As it transitioned and as, over time, it went from the community chest in around the 1960s, there was a push to make community chests all started to say, let's put this under the umbrella of the United Way.
Wow.
That this is the United Way of giving.
Yeah.
That if we all give our money together, it doesn't matter how much you're giving, it will be amplified because we all did it together.
It's awesome.
The back end of that is that the United Way is someone that you can trust in your local community to know what the needs are in your community. So we're working with all the community partners. We're working with all of the nonprofits. We're vetting the agencies, and then we're taking the donations and putting it out to the programs that serve the most human need in the community. In this case, it's working with Your Dollars Through United Way are helping to fund programs with Salvation Army, Catholic Charities, Volunteer Lawyers Project, ACR Health. It's 28 agencies that are all finding program funding through United Way.
That's absolutely, it's awesome, to hear that. And I think, again, I would never even have known that. And that's why I'm thrilled now you're on here today. How long have you been working now with United Way? It's been something recent, or how many years?
3 years with United Way. Just celebrated my third. And it's, this is as generations have gone, it's been 100 years.
Yeah.
Telling that story of United Way and how it works is something that a lot of people, because they know it through their workplace.
Yeah.
If you haven't worked in a workplace like Wegmans or somewhere where there's a corporate campaign,
Correct.
you didn't have that kind of effect.
Correct.
What we as an organization are transitioning to is, as workplaces are changing, you think about how many people aren't going into the office.
Yes.
Or so they don't have a United Way campaign, they don't have a kickoff. They don't say, let's all gather and talk about what this supports. And what you can do is just maybe $1 out of your paycheck. And over the course of, if you did it 52 times during the year, it'd be $52. It's just that little bit that makes the difference. But as workplaces are changing, it gets harder to, number one, get people all together in the office because people are working remotely or they're coming in less often.
Sure.
And as we start to have companies that might be growing in Syracuse, but their workforce is not based in Syracuse, the need for them to feel connected to our community changes. So what we're challenged to do is to also speak to people outside of these traditional workplaces and let them have ways to be able to donate and get involved and understand that you may not have a lot, but you can make a difference, when you give together.
That's absolutely awesome here. Again, it must bring you some joy and satisfaction and purpose that part of your role and what you do is, again, in essence, you're helping others even to give back, but even through yourself doing it. Was there a reason why United Way sort of was the right fit for Ray, at least at this time of life? Is it something that you were like, wow, this is something that's fulfilling?
I'd say, I went into advertising right out of college. I was a guy with an English degree that said, I think advertising would be fun to do. And when I got into it, it was to understand that I was working with a lot of clients across a lot of industries, and I could be selling pizzas, and I could be selling cars, I could be selling all of these different things. And I reached a point in my career where I realized that I wanted to do something good with that experience from advertising and marketing and being a creative director. And there was an opportunity with United Way. That's amazing. I had that experience because I started my life as, when in high school I was an employee at Wegmans. And, after a couple of agencies, I went to Clear Channel, which now is iHeartRadio. Yep. And I had the experience of being in that conference room and having us say, this is United Way Week. We're going to hear about what United Way does in this community. Here are the pledge cards. If you can afford to do maybe $1 or $2, it's going to make a difference. Absolutely. And I got that message, and I learned what United Way did. So the idea of coming in and being able to support United Way and share that story with more people and find more ways for us to connect, it was a challenge, but it was also it was a desire to be able to do that and do something that's going to help our community.
Is there right now something that United Way is either like right now, what is the push right now, if I had to say, between marketing or the overall overarching goal right now with United Way that either you're working on or even through the Central New York United Way? What is right now the focus so that listeners of this podcast can understand what is right now the goal?
It's campaign season. And for a lot of people, we know that there's transition in terms of we've come out of COVID. Depending on who you ask, we are on the way to an inflation. We're in inflation. We are economically, things are challenging. That affects donations. And this is not every cycle of donations that comes through the United Way determines what we can do in terms of support for the community.
For others.
It's dependent on we reach more people, we grow what we have for donations, but it's also that people can continue to find ways to donate.
Absolutely.
So it's always, we're in campaign season. So we have, Wegmans finished a campaign, and Syracuse University is in the middle of their campaign. And this is, what they do in terms of communication. A lot of what we talked about in communication, and, it used to be, I was in the conference room with everyone else. Now it's producing videos, it's sending out emails, it's creating text to donate, it's finding new ways to reach people because we don't have that traditional in-person, here's your paper pledge card, fill this in. We have, here's where you can go and it's going to link you to a site and you can sign up and do that.
Gotcha.
I would say between that and, depending on when someone's watching, right now we have a drive, the CNY Care Package Project, which is collecting personal care items for distribution. So we collect all the items. We package them up, and then we distribute to shelters. Samaritan Center will give them to people when they're coming through for getting a hot meal.
Yes.
These packages then, so last year we collected 1,000 packages. We collected enough to make 1,000 packages. This year we're going for more, and we have the support of Wegmans.
Awesome.
Wegmans at all of the Syracuse locations now has set up, in most of their stores, a special area where you can find personal care items that are soap, toothbrush, toothpaste.
Is it a table stand? Is
a
it like
table
a
stand in the personal
there?
care section? So sort of like in the, around that area. You purchase whatever you want.
And you can drop it into something?
You drop it at the bin at the front.
Really? It's
and
awesome.
then on November 20th, the drive will end. United Way will pick up all of the items. We'll sort them, we'll package them, and then we'll distribute them to all the nonprofits around the community, not just the ones that are receiving funding from United Way, but all the nonprofits that basically say we have a need. So last year we created 1,000 packages. We distributed 1,000 packages. This year we're trying to go well beyond that.
Yeah.
We'll see where we end up. But one thing that we can say is Central New York is a caring, giving community. And we know that when we ask, the community steps up in whatever way possible.
That's is so important. And again, this is the time of the season where people hopefully are just reflective on the time of giving. This is the time to give back and not just to receive. Tell me, is there a website? If someone cannot get to a Wegmans, which hopefully they can go to a Wegmans, drop something off, or is there a website? Is there some type of, is it United Way of Central New York website?
So if you went to unitedway-cny.org,
Okay.
From there, you'll be able to see the banner to go to the CNY Care Package Project website. And from that site, you could find, if you wanted to just go onto the Amazon wish list and order items, they can ship directly to our office where we can package from there.
Awesome.
You could go on and print out materials to do your own drive. We are collecting, there's a box at 980 James Street at our office where you can drop off donations, or you could call us to arrange a pickup or a drop-off time. It's basically if you wanted to just donate money towards creating packages.
Correct.
On that site, you can do all of those things.
That's fantastic. Does anything, again, intersect at all between the Village of Eastwood area and United Way? I mean, obviously, I'm thinking of some of the shops that could even donate, but is there something even locally where either an initiative or something that, again, we can either support United Way on doing, or United Way comes out to Eastwood here on doing something like that? Does that ever cross, or right now you already have sort of the programs in place that you're doing?
Anybody that wants to put that box out and collect, we encourage. There's printable materials. There are ways that tell us that this is what's happening. Social media is a huge outlet for us in order to connect with audiences. So we encourage people that, if you wanted to do a drive, you connect with us, you let us know, you post pictures, you speak to your own customers. Something that we did not do this year, but for the last 2 years, was called the Kickoff Cook-Off.
That's awesome.
And it was traditionally an in-person event. With COVID, we couldn't do it. But what we did, because it was food focused, and it used to be teams of companies would make food, and they'd have a big event at this case it was at the baseball stadium. So for the last 2 years, we said restaurants were the ones that definitely needed some help, and we said to all the restaurants, we collected 20 restaurants who were all big on social media, and said, if you can help us by helping to get the message out, we want to help you by drawing customers. And it was go to, in the case of Miss Prissy's at Salt City Market, or it was go to Water Street Bagel, or go to Sweet Praxis.
Correct.
And they have, over the course of the 20 days, an item on their menu, or they're having a special day, and if you buy that item, it's going to help support United Way. But more so it was, we're going to draw new customers into you. The relationship between nonprofits and business is, you can help us by just doing business.
Correct.
If
Just
you
doing life.
help us bring this message to more people. The donations were great, but for the restaurants, it was also about just trying to drive more business for them.
Absolutely.
If those businesses are successful, there'll be more people that will have jobs and money
Correct.
and opportunities. And we have no lack of need for opportunity in this community.
Absolutely.
We're on the verge of some great things.
Yep.
We are accomplishing and have done some great things. But giving people more opportunity and having companies and businesses that are flourishing is really important to not just the community, but for someone like United Way and all of the network of nonprofits. The better we're doing, the more we have to offer.
Couldn't agree with you more there. Community stuff. We'll wrap it up with just a couple little lightning round questions on community stuff here. Tell me, how many years in Eastwood have you been living here? And if someone had to say to you, again, not that they were planning to move here, but if you were just selling the community on what we do here as a community, what makes Ray love Eastwood so much? So how long have you been here, and what makes Eastwood so great?
I'm going to say 4 years, but my wife will tell you that I don't really keep track of years very well.
Okay, about 4 years.
I think it's 4 years.
About 4 years.
And I would say, we were boomerangs. So my wife was in New York for 10 years. I was going back and forth. We were long distance for 7 years. I moved to New York. We lived in Spanish Harlem. We both worked in Manhattan. And it was after our honeymoon. We were flying back in, and she said, I wish we were going back to Syracuse. She had reached the point of she wanted to start her own business. She wanted to be closer to family. I had my family here. And we came back. And at that point, I went back to, I had friends at Coleman's. I'd worked there for a long time. We lived on Tip Hill. As we grew out from having a rental and said, okay, where do we want to live in Syracuse? I didn't know Eastwood well. I had never really been in the neighborhood, and we shopped around and got to see everything. So we went to the west side, we went to the north side, we went everywhere and saw houses of all kinds. And there was something about when we actually came in and got to know Eastwood, and I think this is one of those marketing pieces of just as somebody says, I'm not sure about United Way, I've heard of it, but I don't get it.
Yeah.
People have heard of Eastwood.
Yeah.
But they may not have ever lived in it or known someone or gotten that experience. And when we came in and saw the neighborhood and walked around and saw houses, and then we started to get more of a feel of it, it was, oh, this is nice. We like this. This is somewhere, and I'll say that, living across the street from Coleman's, we bought our house, and the first night I was like, this is so quiet. It's suburban quiet. Aside from the occasional Eastwood boom that goes off, it's, which I don't think we're promoting that.
Exactly.
But,
there's all kinds of, people still light fireworks all throughout the year too and things like that.
It's a celebration year round.
But
I think that we really didn't, until you get to know the neighborhood, you don't realize, all that's here and kind of the village effect that you have helped to create.
Well, appreciate that.
You've been investing in, in all these properties. You understand, what it takes to make somebody, and it's a model that I believe, that, I saw with Coleman's, where it was, putting money into the houses around your business makes sense.
Correct.
And it makes sense to invest in your community. It makes sense to grow the community and make it a great place to live.
Yeah.
And, I'm going to also say from a convenience side, the access to the highways, this is
amazing. It's amazing.
It's a small, silly thing, but you really can't
beat it.
We can go to Salt Market. We can go to in minutes.
Anything.
We can go downtown and grab something. We can go anywhere. And if we need to go out to the suburbs, we get there. We want to go to Wegmans, or we want to go to wherever, it's all easily accessible. So
I just thank you so much, and I appreciate you. You embody, you and Shauna embody, your whole family, Duke included, just embody the neighborhood village life, which is, again, you get to know your neighbors, you walk places, you support local and small business here, which it's so needed here. And again, we want to see this would be a great place. But again, for people to hear your story with United Way of Central New York and being able to also take part, I hope people, when they listen to this, they will think twice before thinking, oh, it's just a big organization, I've seen that, whatever. And they're probably, no, even couple dollars, even like I said, I love the dollar out of the paycheck thing, or some way to connect, or go through the website, or just be generous, or again, go to Wegmans and drop off a personal care package type thing there. I hope people think about, even as we come into this holiday season, that it will be about giving, about keeping it small, community, getting to know one another, love one another, really building the heart of synergy with our fellow neighbors. So again, appreciate everything you do. And again, I hope and wish the best and for United Way and for this 100 years, hopefully next 100 years to come.
Absolutely. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks a lot, Ray.